Welcome to the world united. Welcome to the world united.
Pranam and greetings from India. Welcome to the World United Most Meet the Master series. This year, the World United Organization is holding the third World Parliament on Spirituality continent wise due to the COVID 19 pandemic. The Asian chapter is due in December, and this interview with Jaya is a prelude to the same. We have Jayaji Rao, who is one of the most powerful speakers on Vedanta, the oldest management school in the world. Backed by her experience in corporate life and 40 years of research on Vedanta, she motivates her audience to live successful and happy lives. So, a formal welcome to Jayaji Rao here on this platform. We are really honored to have.
Sorry, can you stop it? It's Rao, not Ro. The name is pronounced.
So, Pranam and welcome Jayaji Rao here on the platform of the World United Organization. Meet the Master series, and we are really honored to have you with us.
Thank you.
So, as we start with
Thank you.
questions, I mean, there are certain questions that we would like to ask you and know about your spiritual journey. So, the very first question, which normally comes over to anybody's mind, would be how Jayaji was as a child. Was she always like this, or it is her family background or any other influence that made her change her life?
Yes, I had a family background. My grandparents, maternal grandparents, and my mother were deeply interested in spirituality, in classical music, classical dance, things like that. But I also had it in me. I must have had it in me because I remember clearly, distinctly, at the age of around 5 or 6, I would, in the lunch break in school, go to a chapel that was there in the school premises and sit there all by myself. And I still don't know why I did it. I don't know what I got from it, but I remember this very distinctly. So I had it. And then my mother took me to Swami Chinmayanand's lecture when I was 7. And that again, I distinctly remember because I didn't understand a word of what he said, but the impact was great. I remember coming back thinking how nice it would be to be around a personality like this,
Oh, that's great.
So it started young. And then when my parents were in Kuala Lumpur, this was when I was around 12 or 13, 11, 12, I had to come back to Mumbai for school, the last 2 years of school. And I stayed with my maternal grandparents. And I think those 2 years were the most impactful as far as spirituality is concerned. Because my grandmother would do what we call as kirtans. She would speak, lecture, and sing
Oh,
her own compositions, her own theme. The lyrics were her own, and she was very talented considering the fact that she wasn't sent to school even.
oh, that's great.
So, and she would do this in Kannada, she would do it in my mother tongue, Konkani, she would do it in Marathi, so multiple languages, which is so difficult. And I would accompany them because, at that young age, they would not like to leave me behind alone at home.
Hmm.
And then one day my grandfather said, "What are you doing sitting there? Stand behind her and sing, give her vocal support." So
Okay.
I said, "I've never sung in my life. I don't know." He said, "Nothing. We all have music in our blood. So you stand behind her and sing." And that is what had an impact because the theme was spiritual. And I would keep listening to her themes, and she would reduce her audiences to tears just with her inspiring talks. And that had a tremendous impact. So it
That's
started
great.
young.
That's really great. It comes from your family, your religious background,
Yeah.
I should say.
Yes.
And this is how then you grew up into it.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, one thing that I was, when I was going through, is that you are into Vedanta, right? Now, this Vedanta is basically the that divinity which is real in our nature. And this is,
Actually, sorry.
yes,
Vedanta comes from two words, Veda and Anta.
yes,
So, Veda refers to the four Vedas,
yeah,
which are the oldest known source of knowledge to humanity. And there were four Vedas. Each of the Vedas had four sections. And the last section contained the philosophy, the Upanishads. So it was called the Anta of the Vedas, Vedanta.
yes,
Then it came to be known as a philosophy. So now we refer to it as Vedanta philosophy. And
Vedanta.
any text thereafter that spoke of this science of the inner personality was accepted as Vedanta, like the Bhagavad Gita, Shankaracharya's texts. There are so many texts that are included as Vedanta.
So,
So
you think that,
basically, it's the science of the inner personality, science of living, science of the
science
mind.
of living, science of self realization, can
Yes,
it be?
self management actually,
Self management.
and self realization eventually.
It does it mean that religion then is, a search, therefore, a search for the self knowledge? Can you call it that way?
Yes, absolutely. The word religion comes from two words, re ligare, Latin terms, which
Yeah.
means join back to yourself. So, any method, any school of thought that enables you to recognize yourself, your divinity, is a religion. But today, it is considered as a one religion versus other religions. That is not
Yes.
what Vedanta is.
Yes.
So it is a spiritual base on which all religions were built.
So, and what would be the difference between religion and spirituality? How will you, I mean, you can convey it to the world, to the younger generation, especially.
Religion is the teachings of one prophet to his audiences at that particular point in time. So it included, yeah, the base of their teachings, of course, was eternal principles of life and living, which is Vedanta. But they tailored their message to suit their particular audiences.
Right.
So, like for instance, Upanishadic masters gave out the same knowledge in a subtle, cryptic manner because their audiences were on the verge of realization. They were like PhD students. Uh, Others taught maybe fishermen, and so you have to talk the language of the fishermen if you want to communicate to them. Others spoke to educated classes, others spoke to illiterates. So it's like teaching science. How would a science teacher teach to a fifth standard student? The same science teacher would teach differently, to a high school student differently, university student differently, and PhD student in a different way. So it's like that. But
Yes.
what happened later was their followers took it as a commandment, as a rigid thing which cannot be changed. Whereas spirituality goes back to the basis and says, these are the basic essential truths. You can teach them whichever way you like, and different types of human beings can follow it in different ways because people are made differently.
So there are different
Some people
there
are
are different
devotional,
levels of
some people are
understand
intellectual.
levels of understanding
Absolutely.
differs. So, and I
Yes.
I see you holding classes for the younger generation, for the youth. You find that this is the right age for transformation, I guess.
Absolutely. As you have seen, my journey started when I was very young.
Yeah.
And from my experience, I know that children younger than even 5 or 6, have a very clear understanding of what is right, what is wrong, who is right, who's wrong. Their conscience is alert. So if you feed them at that time, they grow up into wonderful human beings. But if that is denied to them, which is what is being done nowadays with the school education, university education, nowhere do they teach this. So they are brought up starved of the spirit, which is
Yeah,
so important.
yeah, absolutely. I can understand because
And therefore they go into wrong avenues.
and that rigidity actually is dividing the youth and the people in general. The rigidity of religion. This is what you mean to say when you talk about
Yes,
commandments also. People are following it
absolutely.
without even thinking of it.
Yes,
So, can you share some turning point?
absolutely.
Can you share some turning points in your life? Something, which pushed you further and you wanted a sudden change. Did you have a guru ever in your life? Or was it, I mean, on your own that you progressed?
Yes, uh, I'll answer your first question first. The turning point. I was in my early 20s and recently married. And you know how it is when you get married, your whole life changes and sometimes things turn topsy turvy. So I was looking for support, looking for answers. And I came across Swami Ramatirtha's books, and they are the most amazing source of knowledge that I have known in my life. So Swami Ramatirtha was born in 18 something and died at the age of 32 in 1906 thereabout. So I have never heard him or seen him, but his books come alive. And actually, he never even wrote books; he just lectured.
Mm.
And someone after him took down his collected lecture notes that were written by various people in America, in India, and published these books. So there's so much dilution. Still, they have a tremendous impact. And I read a sentence in that book that changed my life. And that was, if you're not happy as you are, where you are, you will never be happy.
Okay.
And that struck me because right then I was thinking of changing something around me. And then when you're young, you're arrogant. However arrogant I may have been, I could not bring myself to accept, to feel that I was right and he was wrong. So I said, let's go with him. And I did not do what I had planned to do. And it worked. So
Okay.
then, when one idea worked so much with me, I said, what will the whole knowledge not give me?
Mm.
So that's how I got further into it and deeper into the study of Vedanta and the Bhagavad Gita.
And the Bhagavad Gita, yes. So the Gita is also, I mean, you're lecturing on Gita also?
Yes. In fact, the main thrust of the lectures is the Bhagavad Gita. It is one of the Vedantic texts. It's a very important Vedantic text.
Yes.
It appears in the middle of the Mahabharata, but it was, and it's only 701 verses as against 1 lakh verses of the
The
Mahabharata.
whole.
So it was lost in those verses until Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya, extracted these 700 verses from the Mahabharata and gave it a special status, the Bhagavad Gita. So, the advantage with the Bhagavad Gita is that it addresses the common person. So, you don't feel lost, you don't feel it's too high a knowledge. And it's very down to earth. It addresses a man of action, Arjuna, a worldly wise person. And it speaks of how to achieve success in the world, how to be happy in the world, and how to get to spiritual evolution.
Jayaji, it is being taught in management also. Gita is being taught there. In fact, Gita is being taught in so many other, like we have it in our college also. Like I'm taking MA, my PG in
Oh,
literature, yes. But then we also have a part of it, Aurobindo's Gita. What I mean to, I mean, I want to ask you is, In theory, what we are teaching, is it that easy for the students to understand? Students or the
No.
younger generation, I would say, because this is all theoretical. Unless and until you don't experience it, can one understand, or what do you think the youth take it as a lecture and then finish it off?
Yes, true. Because it it depends on how it is presented. If it is presented in a manner that is easy, simple, and the listener feels comfortable trying it out, experimenting with these principles in their life, then they take it. The amazing part of any subject is a master in the subject has the knack of presenting complex theories in a
Yeah.
very simple manner. Like
Yes.
Einstein apparently was approached by his neighbor once and asked, "My school going son has a problem with physics. Will you
Mhm.
please teach him physics?"
Mhm.
Einstein didn't say, "I'm a PhD, I'm an authority on physics." He readily agreed and taught that child physics such that the child understood.
Mhm.
Same thing with the Bhagavad Gita. A person who understands it, who is living it, has the capacity to convey it to ordinary people in a simple, understandable manner.
Right.
But if you approach it theoretically
Mhm.
and you teach it theoretically, then it becomes the most complex, boring thing.
Yes.
So that is what we talk about. We give examples from modern life. In fact, Spotify, um, I do a series for Spotify podcast called Gita for the Young and Restless.
That's
And
wonderful.
that is in English, partly in Hindi, partly in English,
Yes.
because, and this is at their insistence, because they wanted to reach out to the common person, not just the intellectual elite who understand English. And it has had a tremendous response from the young. I have got messages from 15-year-olds saying that I now understand what the Bhagavad Gita is about.
Oh, that is absolutely wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
It has really reached them.
Yes.
Okay. Any specific practices that you are following as you walk this spiritual path of yours? Any kind of meditation that you are into, or anything that you would, I mean, say that you're doing this to keep yourself, going up and up?
Yes, this is what is prescribed in Vedanta, that you should wake up early, because the Brahma Muhurta, meaning the period during which your mind is most alert and most sensitive and subtle, is between 4 and 6 a.m. So, for years since school, in fact, even without knowing this, I noticed when I was studying for school exams that if I woke up I used to wake up at a quarter to 4, study from 4 to 7. And then because I didn't get a chance to rest otherwise, sleep from 7 to 7:30, then wake up and go to, get ready for school. So I noticed that 1 hour of study in the morning was equal to 2 hours during the day and 3 hours after sundown. Till today, I cannot do any serious thinking after sundown. It's impossible.
Oh,
So, yeah. So I continue that practice of early wake up and a little bit of meditation first thing in the morning, then study my own, study till about 6:15 or so, and then 6:30 I go for a walk. I do a little bit of yoga, and so that takes care of my physical exercise. Then I'm working during the day, and sometimes whenever I can, I grab a little short nap in the afternoon because I wake up that early. And so during the day, my work consists only of Vedanta and how to spread this knowledge of Vedanta to as many people as possible. So that consumes all my work, the day. And sometime during the day, at least half an hour, I listen to classical music because it has such an uplifting effect on you. Any
oh,
music that inspires you. That is recommended. And this is something that I experienced in childhood. We used to have bhajans, we used to sing bhajans from 7:30 to 8. So when everyone came home from office or work or school, we would freshen up and sing bhajans for half an hour before dinner. And that has such an important role to play, because you tend to pick up negative emotions during the day and they get washed off in this devotion. So I listen to classical music for at least
Music,
half an hour
music
a
is,
day.
you think it's kind of a meditation, right? Music is
Music
meditative,
is so soothing and
soothing.
uplifting.
It gives you peace,
It's,
especially when it is classical. It is working on with your vibrations also, your inner
and
vibration.
it evokes positive emotions in you. That devotional aspect is awakened.
Okay, and teaching Vedanta, Gita through, I mean, the lectures that you have, or on YouTube lectures also that you are, I mean, giving. You think, is this the purpose of your life? I mean, what would you call it? Like, what would be the purpose of your life? To spread?
The purpose of my life is to get to self realization, for which I need to work for a higher cause. And I can't think of a better cause than to spread this knowledge, because it is absolutely important in one's life. It is not possible to live a successful and happy life without this knowledge. It's not possible to play a game of cricket without knowing the rules of the game.
Have you had, Jayaji, somebody, so much influenced by you? Any such sparkling incident, I would say? Any such, moment of your life which you would like to share here? Some highlight of your life? Maybe with your students, maybe with somebody else. Something which you remember and really took you to a high and made a change really in your students also. It can be.
There are plenty of people who have changed as a result of the knowledge, but honestly, I don't claim any credit for it, because the credit goes to the knowledge, the credit goes to these ancient masters. I'm only like a tape recorder that's conveying the knowledge. So I don't make a note of this, but yes, there are several people who have benefited from it and have been able uh, to blossom in their respective fields. This knowledge has made a big difference. Like, for instance, in Philadelphia, I had gone there for a lecture. And as I approached the lecture hall, a young girl, 26-year-old girl, came out from nowhere and said, "You don't know me, but I know you. And you have changed my life." So there are many instances like this. The only thing is the people have to have that consistency to continue with it. They benefit a little bit and then they get complacent. You've got
Yes.
to keep going
Yes.
till you reach that higher goal.
Very few people have
Yes,
that continuous persistence, you can say. I mean, they don't stay long, right? You are.
absolutely.
It is actually for a smaller benefit, and then it's all gone.
Yeah.
And that is why the people rising like you are very, very rare. It's the
Yes,
rarest.
even right through history, there is that rare Buddha, the rare Shankaracharya, the rare.
Right.
But that one Buddha or one Shankaracharya impacts on the lives of millions of people right down the ages.
Yeah.
So that is of importance more than the numbers.
Then what would you talk about? Because this era, the era that we are living in, what do you think, Gita, is it Karam Yoga which is more important? Because Gita talks of all the four yogas. So, this era, which one is the most important or the easiest to follow? You think?
Actually, it doesn't depend on the era, it depends more on the constitution of the human being. So, if one tends to be more active, and that is because the person has a lot of desires, and these desires push you to activity in the world to fulfill these desires, then karma yoga is prescribed. Then there are, so this is the majority, yes. in particularly in the modern times, people
Yes.
tend to be more active and they are full of desires. Um, then there are a few people who tend to be more emotional. So what drives them is emotion. You know. Such people need bhakti yoga. So
Yeah.
they need to convert their emotions towards human beings, to the divine. And then they benefit more from it. And there are rarer still people who are intellectual, who are consumed by questions like, where have I come from? Where am I going? What is the purpose of my existence? Who created the world? Or you look at the sunrise and wonder who created the sun. So these are rarer people who have very few desires and who have that urge, what is known in the Vedanta as mumukshatva, the desire for liberation.
Yes.
They have to follow the path of knowledge. So, and then there are it's not only the type of people, but all of us are active at some times, emotional at some times, and those rare moments when we are contemplative. So you have to give these according to the proportion that you have. And then there are moments when you are lazy, tamasic, they call it. So you have to have this hatha yoga where you get your body to activity, energize yourself physically, and get rid of the tamas so that you can then pursue karma, bhakti, and dhyana yogas. So judicious mix of these four results in a meteoric rise in your personality. So what we
And
recommend is a mix of all four.
and this is what a spiritual guru actually does. I think he picks out which proportion, I mean, where you are going to, flourish more, and he picks up that. Now, why I'm saying this is because when you're walking the spiritual path, you tend to meet so many people on your way, right? Can you just tell us something about someone whom you met and who really touched you deep inside?
In terms of
Or who left
a
some kind of an
guru, you're
imprint
talking
on
about?
you, because when you're walking on this path you tend to meet so many people, so many like-minded people, maybe people maybe
Well, there are many, but if you're talking about a teacher, guru, then I have been influenced greatly by Swami Ramatirtha and his books.
yeah.
As I told you earlier, I have listened to Swami Chinmayananda. I've heard Swami Ranganathananda of the Ramakrishna Mission.
Hmm.
And I was with Swami Parthasarthi for 25 years. So his was the greatest influence in terms
They
of
have
um, the period, number of years.
they have
And
left those deep impacts on you, and you feel that you've changed.
yes, yes, as a result of everything that I got from them, the discipline, um, the way of looking at things, your perspective changes on life when you are exposed to these ideas.
Right.
And so, yes, there are many people who have, right from school, I was fortunate to be in a school where the principal, who was British actually, she was an English woman, um, she imposed disciplines, and we were taught in such a way that all of us really grew into, the foundation was set,
Yeah.
like punctuality, for instance.
It was
Somehow in our
it was a
school,
missionary school.
yes,
Okay.
yes, it had a rule that the first bell rang at 5 minutes to 9. And if you were not inside the gate of the school when the first bell rang, you were marked absent, even if you just scraped through. And if you were absent, if you were marked late, sorry, not absent, 3 times in a month, you were expelled from school. So, you know how Indians and their lack of punctuality is. But however indisciplined we may have been, somehow or the other, we got to school on time. And that remains with you. So it is these little things, even the English that we were taught, because that's the language in which I communicate, that's the language in which I speak. So I owe it to school teachers. And so, like that, there have been so many people who have influenced me, and I'm so grateful to all these,
So, so it's
including the people who gave me a tough time. It is people who are negative towards you, who present challenges before you. They are the ones who keep you on your toes and keep you moving forward. And I'm grateful to them as well. It's
in a
like
way they are
Kunti.
better they are better teachers.
Yes. That's why Kunti in the Mahabharata apparently told Krishna, please bless us with hardships so that we may never forget you.
Oh, yes. Yes. It is only during pain, during suffering that one remembers the Almighty, that power, Otherwise, the
Yes,
comfort of life make you forget everything.
absolutely.
So one has to remain a learner in life. This is what you say, because right from your childhood, right from the time the bell rang, you say you've been learning discipline, and all throughout your life, whether it was the books or whether it was missions, that wherever you've been. So you've been
Yes,
basically a learner.
absolutely.
And to be a good teacher, one requires to be a good learner.
Yes. To the extent you're a good learner, you are a good teacher.
Yes, right. Okay. Through this platform, Jayaji, there's one question which comes up, and that would be your message, I think. That should become your message. That since you are into Vedanta and since you are into Gita, I'm asking you this. What is the goal of life as per Vedanta? And well, self-realization, as you say, is one, that supreme peace and that bliss that one gets. But what would you like to convey to the world through this platform, that how one should move towards that ultimate truth, that ultimate truth? And what is this, I mean, how we can bring that united consciousness throughout the world? Because like we are different religions, we are all divided, right? So how is that you would want people to move towards that ultimate truth, enlightenment, nirvana, whatever you may call so, and come at one level of consciousness, so that there is unity and we understand that we are all one?
Yeah. Um, I'd like to quote Michelangelo, who said that in every block of wood or stone, there is a beautiful sculpture.
Oh,
All you
wonderful.
have to do is remove the excess material. And that is what all human beings are. Every one of us, every single human being, irrespective of IQ, wealth, position, talent, whatever, has perfection within. We are carrying this perfection, excellence, divinity, splendor, magnificence within us. But you don't see it. Why don't you see it? Because there is excess material of selfishness, desire, ego, negativity. And so, our mission in life is to remove this excess material so that the divinity inside us is exposed and or known. It's not known even to us. So, what a tragedy it is. It's like a billionaire doesn't know he's a billionaire and goes out begging.
Yes.
We are like that. So the purpose of every human being is to get to that state of excellence. And until we get to that state of excellence, we will always be pressurized, we will always be under stress, we'll always be in a state of uneasiness, discomfort. This is because we are not in our normal state. It's like when your temperature is normal, you feel comfortable. You don't feel like taking a temperature. But when your temperature goes up, even to 99 degrees, you feel a sense of discomfort, right?
Hmm.
So that discomfort is there in all human beings because we are not in our original state. So the whole program of spirituality is just to help human beings to regain their original state, for which you have to do very simple things, and that is remove the excess remove the excess material. So for that, there are three broad pathways that are prescribed. One, when we act, all of us go to work with the attitude of taking. We want more money, we want, let's say, a better home, better car. So the reason for our work is profit. Instead, Vedanta says, go out into the world with the attitude of giving. And how does this attitude of giving come? When you become aware of all that you have been blessed with, the millions and trillions of things that have come to us, unasked for, unacknowledged, and definitely not paid for. Nobody has given anything to us with a bill, right? So the fact that we are in good health, the fact that we have oxygen around to breathe, we have a wonderful world to live in, the sunlight, so on and so forth. There are millions and trillions of things. So we have these blessings in abundance and constant supply. So we take it for granted. Of course, I'll be in good health, but it's not to be, just because it's come to us for free and in abundance doesn't mean it does not have a value. So when you become aware of all that you have, you develop this gratitude and you want to give back in some way. This wanting to give back is the most magical attitude because in that lies success. The law is give, you gain, grab, you lose. You think of giving, you don't even have to give. You just have to be aware that I owe so much to so many people and I'd like to give. And what can you give? You can't give anything because whatever you give still doesn't belong to you.
Yes.
But you offer, like a person goes, the Bhagavad Gita says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. What can you give? You give a leaf, a flower, a fruit. And if you say, I live in a concrete jungle, I don't have any of this, a few drops of water. But that must be given wholeheartedly. Then it has that impact. So giving. Second, we are consumed with negative thoughts, negative emotions. I dislike so much, so I can't stand so and so. I hate my mother-in-law and I don't like my boss. I don't know. We are just full of negativities. If only we are able to rise above that and entertain a sense of first understand the person for what he or she is and understand that he or she is a victim of his own nature. So I have no business hating him. Just as I am a victim of my nature, others are victims of their nature. So then the hatred changes to first understanding, then affection, and then love. That is bhakti. Bhakti is not swearing love to a God that you don't know. Bhakti is reaching out to people that you know, that you're interacting with love.
That's
So
wonderful.
that is the second thing. And the third is when you, if you apply these two, you'll become an extraordinarily successful person. You must understand that everything in the world is temporary, passing. It will go. It comes to you only to go. So once you're established in that understanding, then when it goes, you don't sit there and weep. So that is knowledge. Nitya, Anitya, Viveka, Vicharam.
That's
Constant
absolutely wonderful.
reflection
Beautiful.
on the distinction between permanent and impermanent.
And that would be your message to this world. The moment people
Absolutely.
understand this, it is the world would become a beautiful place to live in, very peaceful and very loving. Right? That was really great. It was so nice to have you with us and listen to such, lot of knowledge. Though this is just a glimpse of it, I can understand that. But thank you,
Thank you.
Jayaji, for being with us. It was really, really wonderful to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.